ever had with a man. He was the reason her grandmother kept bitching at her about the lack of great-grandbabies. Matilda would have liked to think she was mature enough now to be over him. Sadly, she wasn't that evolved. The wound may have healed, but it wasn't all neat and perfect. It was jagged and messy, and if you poked it, it still hurt from time to time. "I wouldn't mind being rucked by him," someone muttered. Matilda glanced around at the general murmur of agreement and tried not to remember how good the man rucked. He had set a very high standard. A surge of heat and estrogen flooded her system at the avalanche of memories. Looking around at the lascivious gazers, she doubted she was the only one experiencing a hot flush. "He doesn't give interviews," someone else lamented. "He might now." Imelda nodded as the screen split in two. One side was still, unhelpfully, focused on a pair of glutes that would have made Michelangelo weep. The other showed Bonner Hayden, a recently disgraced rugby player from another team, dashing to his car through a mob of reporters. He'd gotten drunk and disorderly and exposed himself to a waitress in front of an entire restaurant and about 40 camera phones. It had been the latest in a series of embarrassing incidents for the sport. The attention in the room switched back to Imelda. "Rugby's had a bit of an annus horribilis," she explained. "Their image is pretty crap at the moment, particularly with women. They might be amenable to a feature series on one of their best and brightest, the man behind the myth kind of thing." The heat coiled and simmered in Matilda's gut now. "He's hardly squeaky clean," she objected. "Best and brightest? Screw that. The man's had more barely dressed women on his arm than Hugh bloody Hefner." Matilda didn't watch sport, and she avoided gossip magazines. But she did work on a newspaper. It was impossible to avoid stories and pictures of the one man it seemed everyone wanted a piece of. "So, the man's a bit of a playboy. He's hot, single, and likes pretty girls." Imelda shrugged. "But there's never been a whiff of scandal surrounding him, and at the moment that seems to be a bit of a rarity in the sport. I think the rugby board might be willing to offer up a sacrificial lamb, no matter how reluctant, to restore its image, if we pitched it just right." Imelda tapped a finger with a long scarlet nail against her lips for a beat or two, before wandering over to the large windows, every eye in the room tracking her path. The offices of the Standard were high in the sky with a 180-degree view of central Sydney. Imelda stopped, as if she was admiring the sparkling harbour and the white sails of the famous opera house. But Matilda had been around long enough to know that Imelda wasn't seeing any of it. She could hear the cogs in her boss's brain working overtime. "Sydney Smoke's Playboy Saint," she said, turning to face them abruptly, looking into the distance as if she could see the headline up in lights somewhere. Matilda snorted before she could stop herself. "You wouldn't think that if you knew him." A saint? Tanner Stone was the Antichrist. The rapt focus of the group switched instantly to Matilda, zeroing in on her as if she were roadkill and they were birds of prey. The atmosphere in the room grew predatory. "Crap." "Oh, really?" Imelda purred, pushing away from the windows and prowling toward her with all the grace and menace of a jungle cat about to pounce. "Do tell."